In 1984, an old widowed lady lived by herself in a two-story house. She was completely immobile and bound to a wheelchair. Ever since the mysterious death of her husband, she required the aid of a caretaker who would visit her daily to help her with everyday tasks. What made it so difficult was the fact that the two floors of the house were only connected by an old and decrepit staircase. When the old lady needed to move between the two floors, the caretaker would have to carry her frail body like an infant up and down the stairs. One day, the police received a call from the widow. There had been a murder. Since police units were scarce at the time, and the murderer had already fled the scene, only one detective was sent out to conduct the initial crime scene report. He arrived to see the caretaker's body laid out on the floor with her vocal cords ripped out, leaving a pool of blood on the first level of the house. The old lady sat atop the staircase in her wheelchair watching him, still and silent, seemingly in shock. He immediately ruled her out as a suspect due to her inability to move up and down the stairs, and because she was trapped up there at the time the murder took place. It was similar to the death of her husband, who had suffocated in his sleep on the couch downstairs many years ago. The detective put on his gloves, took photos, swabbed for evidence, and covered the body until the coroner arrived later. All routine business. He scoped the entire first floor for any clues, then asked the old lady if he could look upstairs. She insisted that she was upstairs the whole time, but that no one apart from her had been up there all day. Regardless of this, the detective ascended the staircase, to which she slowly and hesitantly moved aside. Beyond the staircase, there was a narrow corridor with 3 closed doors along it. He checked behind each of the doors. The empty bedroom, nothing. The bathroom, nothing. He became anxious as he slowly made his way to the final bedroom where the old lady slept. He opened it and everything looked normal. A bed, a wardrobe, and a beside table with a lamp. He checked every wall of the room in horror. It was not what he discovered, but what he didn't, that made him stop dead in his tracks and slowly reach for his gun in its holster. It was a detail so minor that they had completely overlooked it on the last investigation of the husband's death. There was no phone upstairs. He suddenly heard a noise. He withdrew his gun and rushed out of the room, only to find an empty wheelchair atop the stairs. Yeah, this was actually a really short one, and quite honestly, sometimes the short ones are actually really good. This one is one of those short ones that's like really good because, yeah, nothing really, like, it's not like a haunted game, a lost episode, none of that. No, this is actually the first non-lost episode, non-gaming creepypasta we ever read, and what a good one to do for a non-gaming, just, yeah, what a good one to not do one of those with. Now, as it was really short, I am going to read another one. As again, this took me a little over 3 minutes to read, just in general. Now, what makes this one so great is, while it was short and sweet, it was that's all sometimes it's all you really need to have like a story soak in, because you have to think about it. This lady was most likely faking having to, be in a wheelchair, as evident at the end of the story, because why else would she? Because if she was upstairs the whole time, how would she have known that her caretaker and her husband had died? There'd be no way she would, unless she heard them screaming. But then, even then, They could have been screaming about anything, so you gotta think that over. It's like, really interesting. And if you've seen horror movies, like, this is also like pretty much a horror movie, just summarized in a few short paragraphs. Which, honestly, again, is sometimes the best way to read a story, so it was a really good one. But yeah, seeing as this was a really short one, I'm gonna go ahead and read another one. There's an old saying, you can't fight what you can't see. Although this is all good and true, it leads me to question something. What can't you see? You can see psychopaths, serial killers, and other evils of the world. Have you ever stopped to think, why do they kill? The truth is that these poor people are victims along with the ones killed. And while the police and judges try to defeat the real enemy, they are simply cutting off one head as two more grow back. The real enemy is not the criminals, it's insanity itself. You can't see this enemy, and you can't even begin to try to fight it. These people did nothing wrong. They were just given some bad genetics, maybe an abusive childhood, and yet they are blamed for the actions of insanity. And then others ignore and shun these poor people as they lose their mind. Denied humanity when they need it most. Alone and afraid, they quickly become paranoid and violent, and now insanity has created its perfect host. Are you starting to see now that all those serial killers and cannibals are as innocent as you and me? However, this also means that anyone has the potential to go down this road. You may not know it yet, but in the following years, you may murder someone, and you will think nothing of it. It'll just be a regular event, and you may think of it as a treat. Well, that's what it's like for me, at least. My point is, don't blame us for our actions. We have reasons and motivations. You see, we are compelled by violence, other killings and crimes. So every murder will only create more killers, and the same populace will only decrease. I just wanted you to know that all this before the same happens to me. I'm joining the winning team, so why don't you follow my lead? No one will blame you. After all, it's not your fault. And here we have, surprisingly, another short one. 3 short paragraphs. And this is just, I mean, honestly, if you ask me, this is honestly quite true because, yep, this is a creepypasta written about mental illness, which itself is actually a scary thing. So the fact that this is actually the truth just makes it all the more unsettling because, while yeah, it is just a story, it's also somewhat true because, like, you can't, just because you see what a person's like on the outside doesn't mean you can see what they're like on the inside. And this story just kind of adds to it. And honestly, it's quite a good one. It's another short one, of course, so you can't really, like, say much about it. But I'm gonna try to find a third one, and if I can, I'll read it. Ooh. Sorry, please. I have always been uneasy driving alone at night. It was worse the first few times when I had just gotten my license, but the nagging fear has never gone away to this day. It's disorienting to look into the mirrors and see nothing, and I mean nothing but the consuming blackness of the night. It makes me hesitant to check out the mirrors should I see the stark void or worse. Someone sitting in my backseat staring at me. In the summer of 2013, I found myself driving home alone on Highway 902 from a party. It was almost midnight, and needless to say, it was pitch black. As was usual at night, I was on edge. I had the radio off and could hear nothing but the muffled roar of tires on pavement and the dull hum of the engine. I stole a glance into the middle rearview mirror and saw nothing but darkness through the back window. I know that I looked backward and saw nothing. I'm sure of it. Just a seemingly endless blackness of the night. I remember it so clearly because not 10 seconds later a car passed me to the left. Her lights on. I had one of those sudden adrenaline rushes, like when you think you see a person outside your bedroom window when it's just a tree, or when you start to awake at night with the feeling of falling. 10 seconds later, nothing had been behind. 10 seconds earlier, nothing had been behind me. Suddenly, a car. I drove all the way home shivering and knowing something was off. The next morning, I found 2 sets of scratches near the back of my van. One was on the left rear, and one was on the right. The car was pretty old. They could have been there for months, but that was the first time that I distinctly remembered seeing them. In hindsight, there are 2 possibilities for what happened that night. Possibility 1. By some glitch in reality or something paranormal, this other car had somehow appeared behind me within 10 seconds of me checking my mirror. Like some weird ghost crap or something. However, the second option is what makes my blood run cold whenever I consider it. It didn't even occur to me until months after the fact, but it makes me dread driving alone at night even more. Possibility 2. The car was normal. It had approached me from the rear and passed me to my left. However, something large and wide, and as black as the night, had been clinging to the rear of my car, obscuring my view through the window and leaving deep scratches on the sides. And I had inadvertently driven it home with me. Wow, that was 3 short creepypastas, and I know I had been reading creepypastas for like the past month because one of those weeks was just a bunch of Master Duel videos, which is one of the big reasons. The second big reason was last time I read any creepypastas were those 2 last episodes SpongeBob creepypastas. I technically it was 1.5 because halfway through that second SpongeBob last episode creepypasta I read last time, it was absolutely terrible and I couldn't read it anymore. It was bad. And apparently the creepypasta wiki, the fandom wiki itself, said that both stories were good quality. The first SpongeBob last episode of creepypasta I read last time was decent. The second one was just full of unnecessary detail. It was awful. It broke me, and that was another reason I decided to stop. But reading these 3 short stories was honestly a good way to get back into reading these creepypastas on the channel. Now, the first one was Stairs, which was about a cop back in 1984 being called about a murder in an old lady's house, but when he got there and looked in the room, found no phone, and the old lady was gone. And the second one was What Can't You See, which was essentially a philosophical thought about, hey, maybe these mental illnesses that people are either born with or develop over time are making these people do these terrible things, and it's really not their fault. It's the mental illness taking control of their mind, which honestly is a thing to consider, because honestly, you have to think about that to in order to understand. And this third one is Darkness in the Rearview Mirror, which is another good one, because it's essentially a story about having a fear of driving at night, which a lot of people are afraid to do. And it makes sense, because, again, you never know what can happen at night when you drive at night. You could be alone, then all of a sudden, here comes a car coming right behind you when there was nothing there just a few seconds ago. And the story showcases that perfectly well. Or you never know when you could just be driving and all of a sudden you would hit something or someone. When, again, there was nothing there just a few seconds ago. You never know. The story shows that well, and honestly, it's really good for that. But yeah, these are 3 short creepypastas that I've actually, 2 of them I've been wanting to read for quite a while. This third one, Darkness in the Rearview Mirror, was kind of just a last minute thing. But yeah. Again, I'm glad I brought these creepypastas back, because I've had the urge to bring them back for a little while now, and these 3 stories were actually perfect for bringing them back. But yeah, thanks for watching, and next week I've got an idea for a creepypasta I want to read for next week. But yeah, thanks for watching, and take care.